Hello again everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today it's time for another games to add to the Spectrum list. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and this is 5 random movie tie-in games to add to the Spectrum. The reason I said random is because we're not going for necessarily the best movie tie-in games on the ZX Spectrum. We're going for just some random movies. I thought they were good fun to add to the Spectrum, which is what these lists are all about really, isn't it? So they're not necessarily going to be the highest rated games you'll come across. We've also mentioned a few already, like RoboCop and Batman, so we don't want to cover old ground necessarily. Doesn't mean I can't put the same games in different lists, but I kind of figured that this was probably a better idea to do random stuff, so that's why that's in the title. Anyway, without further waffling from me, let's get straight on with this countdown. Okay, the first game we're going to talk about is License to Kill. I don't know if it's License to Kill or 007 License to Kill, because they've all got the 007 moniker on them, obviously. Now, I'm a huge James Bond fan. A massive James Bond fan, so it was a bit of a no-brainer really to have a James Bond game on this list. I think it just had to be done, and this is one of those games that falls into the category of not played it much on the ZX Spectrum, played it to bits on the Commodore Amiga. So I've got it's usually either Commodore Amiga or Commodore 64 if I haven't played it on the ZX Spectrum. This game, when it came out, I was well into the Amiga by that point, and yeah, played it on there and absolutely loved this game on the Amiga, even though I was rubbish at it, and I've never finished this game. And I was seeing on YouTube there were some playthroughs of this, and I was watching some of them, and they finished the game in like 10 minutes. It's absolutely crazy the way people do modern playthroughs these days, but for me this game gave me hours of fun on the Amiga. I never got anywhere near finishing it, and probably if I was doing a run on it I would be longer than 10 minutes, so God knows how they get through all the levels. It's absolutely crazy, but there we go. I suppose that's the perils of not being very good at games. License to Kill, it might surprise some of you, it is actually my favourite Bond film. I absolutely love it. I just love the story of it. I love the fact that Bond goes rogue. I think it's brilliant. And I think Timothy Dalton was an absolutely fantastic 007. Personally, I wish he'd got more movies, but I like all the Bonds, really, I grew up probably with Roger Moore, because that's my era. Obviously, I liked going back and watching Connery, and I like him in everything I've seen him in, like all movies. But there was just something about Timothy Dalton. I really liked the way he played Bond. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Of course, Pierce Brosnan was great too. And I'm a big fan of Daniel Craig as well. And well, we better not forget Lazenby, I suppose, even though he did one movie. Anyway, this isn't about James Bond, so I shouldn't really rattle on too much about it. But as you can tell, I got a lot of love for James Bond. I've got every single movie on Blu-ray. I bought the Bond 25 collection when it came out, and I've been buying the newer ones since. So yeah, it's one series that I absolutely adore. And in the 80s, where there always used to be a Bond film on bank holidays, for me, I keep up that tradition. If there's not one on the TV anywhere, I'll bust out the Blu-rays and probably put one on, because I just love it. I think it's great. Anyway, back to the game itself. Released by Domark in 1989 for $9.99 and $14.99 on disc, and it came out on lots of platforms, this game: Amiga, Amstrad CPC, Atari ST, BBC Micro, Commodore 64, MSX, PC, DOS, and of course ZX Spectrum. So we're going to have a look at Crash. That won't surprise you. I always try to pick the Crash reviews, but I think we've gone for a couple of different ones this time, because some of the Crash reviews were just black and white and boring on all of them, and I just wanted to introduce a little bit of colour, so that's why we've gone for some of the colour reviews. Fortunately, the Crash one was very colourful for this, so let's read it. This is rather topical, seeing as I only managed to see the film last night. Oh wow. I was about to say, what have you been missing? But yeah, of course, yeah, back then. And a jolly enjoyable flick it was too. Probably the best Bond yet, I think. Oh, there we go. Someone agrees with me. And this has absolutely no connection with the fact that Talisa Soto, drool, is in it. Oh no, and we don't fancy her at all. The plot is simple. That's not new for a Bond film. Evil drugs baron Sanchez kidnaps Bond's mate Felix on his wedding night and does him in. Well, does him in? I'm not going to do spoilers in case... Oh no, this film's been out since 1989. He doesn't kill him. So that's what we're going to say. It's been out since 1989. I think we can spoil it. Bond gets all stroppy about this and goes after Sanchez, much to the annoyance of M, who revokes his license to kill. What follows is predictable enough. 2 fast and furious hours of Bond gunning for Sanchez. As usual with film tie-ins, a selection of the better action scenes make the multi-stage arcade game. In this case, we've got 3 scenes subdivided into individual parts. In part 1 of the first scene, you must blast Sanchez's jeep from your helicopter. Then it's out of the chopper and foot slogging, dodging your way through the scenery, shooting baddies as you go. To top off load 1, Bond is lowered by a rope from the helicopter and has to get a tow rope onto the tail of Sanchez's plane. Scene 2 happens at sea with some vertically scrolling swim and shoot 'em up action. Like the movie, the final stage is where the tanker trucks go hurtling along the mountain road in the escape from the drug factory. Bond doing his best to stop them. It's all jolly good, clean fun. Say no to the evils of drugs, kids. The graphics are good and there's plenty of variation, though the game is a bit tough. It's good to see someone not making a complete mess of a very good license for a change. Very good? I don't know why that says very good. If anyone can see the pun there, let me know, but I can't see the pun. License to continue, though, Mark. Mike, 79%. And then we've got the overall rating. It's good adaptation of the film, playable when you're used to the difficulty level. Presentation 82%, graphics 80%, sound 80%, playability 80%, addictivity 75%, overall 80%. We've also got Nick making a contribution to this and says, this blockbusting James Bond game should be renamed License to Make the Player Jolly Mad. It's well put together and the graphics and sound are what we've come to expect from Domark, but it's just too hard for the likes of me. I could just about manage to get through the first bit, but was then confronted with a tiny stick man to represent me and miles of gun blasting enemies to wade through. The later levels are really good with James swimming after speedboats, woo, and a daredevil truck race, but there's great playability to be had in License to Kill, but you're going to have to be pretty hot games player to get at it, is Nico admitting to his failings. Ed, 80%. I can agree on that one. I've never finished the game. Obviously I said I played it on the Amiga. As far as I know, it's the same game, just better graphics, and it looks lovely on the Amiga, to be fair, but it looks really good on the Spectrum. I have played it. I'll try and link in the description or at the end of the video. I did a comparison video of the versions of License to Kill, and that was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I've got a video up on the channel anyway, so I'll try and link it so you can watch it if you want to see the differences, see the Amiga version that I'm talking about. But it's a good version, the ZX Spectrum version, for definite, and I'm sure probably most of you that are here may have only played it on the Spectrum, because obviously you're going to be huge Spectrum fans. I am too, obviously, but you know, by 1989 I'd moved on. I know there are a few people in the same boat as me, where you know we get to the end of the 80s and technology is advancing and everything, and maybe you also upgraded to the Commodore Amiga, so maybe you know what I'm talking about with this one. But it's good fun, really good to play. I like it a lot. I love the film, so obviously I've got a bit more of a connection to any 007 movie as well, so again that connects me to this game. I think it's really good, and I like that I've never finished it, to be honest, because I'm hoping definitely to do it for the first time on here. Having said that, I've had the A500 Mini for a while and I love the game on the Amiga, and I haven't finished it on there yet either, so we'll see if I get around to it with like the thousands and thousands of games I'm currently putting on the USB stick. But I'm definitely hoping to get to it. If you've never played it, I would say definitely a big thumbs up for this game and recommended, and especially if you're a fan of the movie or like the Dalton Bond or whatever, I think you'll get a lot of joy out of this game. Okay, and on to the next game. It is Short Circuit, made by Ocean in 1987. This is the first of the expected Ocean movie tie-ins, because they were the masters of them back then. It released for £7.95, also on Amstrad CPC and Commodore 64, and this is a game that I did play a little bit of on the ZX Spectrum. I like this little comment on this website here. It says, consisted of 2 games. One, a sideways run along the road jumping things, poor. The other, an arcade adventure, very good. So there we go. There's a summation for you. We don't need to go on really, do we? For those of you who've never seen Short Circuit, the movie was released in 86, the year before this game, about a robot gets struck by lightning and thinks he's alive, and it's funny. I loved the movie growing up, and I watched it fairly recently, probably a few years ago, and to me it still holds up. I think it's funny and sweet, and you know, sort of like a cross, if you're thinking not back then but now, you'd say it was a cross between like maybe E.T. and Wall-E, really, you know, that sort of thing. But it's funny. I like the movie very much. It's got a couple of people out of Police Academy in it as well, if you're fans of Police Academy, and yeah, my ex-wife was massive on Police Academy, and I was too growing up, so we got the Blu-ray set somewhere around here. Fun game, and we're going to have a look at Crash for this one, I believe. You'd think I'd know, considering I'm the one doing the video. Yes, it is Crash. There it is on the screen. We've gone for the Crash review on this one. It is a bit colourful, so it's not boring black and white. Unfortunately, it's a very long review, so I've got to read it. There we go, but we'll crack on. Our hero, number 5, is no ordinary robot. Well, not anymore anyway. All was fine until the unfortunate android was struck by a freak lightning bolt, which raised his logical circuitry towards the level of human consciousness. Now, to all intents and purposes, he is alive, and he prefers it that way. Number 5's creators, the scientists from the Nova Corporation, want to pull him apart diode by diode in order to find out how his circuits have become able to assume human qualities. This doesn't make the nouveau human particularly happy, and he begins to plot his escape. The game takes up the story in the Nova Robotics building, with the factory complex effects displayed in isometric perspective. That is 3 of the current room's 4 walls in view. Number 5 is not yet fully equipped to escape and begins by collecting a few items to expand his powers. These add the capacity to jump and fire a laser to his basic capability of simply trundling around. A computer printer in the status area monitors 5's activities, and 2 bar meters reveal the status of his laser and mechanical frame. To escape, 5 has to log on to the Nova computer. This gives the robot hero access to 3 program routines: search, read and use. Search is the most vital, enabling 5 to examine desks, cupboards, coat racks, in fact anything in the factory where something useful might be hidden. Linking doors between the rooms are usually locked, whilst others require security pass. Therefore, finding keys and passes is high on 5's agenda. Before number 5 can attempt to leave, he needs to have in his possession all the correct objects and components. If anything has been left uncollected, he's immediately captured. If a successful escape allows the player to load up the second half of the game, a frantic chase. The chase sequence sees 5 dashing over a horizontally scrolling rural landscape. Number 5 is so sensitive that if he injures a creature, grief overloads his emotion circuits, immobilizing him for a while and leaving him prey to the guards who follow his tracks. 5 can jump and fire, but his shots aren't deadly. The guards are simply stunned. Other Nova robots also pursue 5, and like the guards, they can temporarily be disabled by laser fire. While the fugitive is busy dealing with his pursuers, he must also avoid hazards such as rocks, logs, puddles, and the occasional lake. Falling into the lake is fatal as it shorts out the robot's circuitry. Van awaits at the end of the chase, and providing 5 arrives there without being detected by the Nova helicopter, he can make his escape to freedom. What he gets up to then is another story altogether. So we have comments. Use of colour, monochromatic on first game and reasonably colourful on the second. So they're kind of splitting it into 2 games here as well. Graphics, good use of perspective and lively. Sound, funky tune and spot effects with more tunes on the 128K version. Skill levels 1, screen 64, general rating. Takes 2 popular aspects of Spectrum gaming and presents them both fairly well, worth a look. Presentation 71%, graphics 70%, playability 70%, predictive quality 69%, value for money 68%, overall 71%. So pretty good. We've got 3 opinions here. From Ben first. I don't know what to make of Short Circuit. The first part lacks depth, but it's somehow still compelling, and the second is merely an arcade pattern game, which also appeals for some obscure reason. Graphics are very good, with the main character well drawn and animated. The rooms and backgrounds are also pretty, if a little sparse. The sound is up to Ocean's usual high standard. There's a great tune on the title screen and some useful effects during play. Short Circuit works well, but I'd recommend a couple of trial plays before buying. Ricky says Short Circuit is one of the best film licenses for ages and represents good value with the inclusion of a second and very different game. First part, a 3D arcade adventure, is constructed well within the right amounts of exploration, puzzles and thought involved. The scrolling printer on the status panel works to good effect, giving what could have been a rather dull information screen a bit of life. Second part may prove frustrating as 5 only has 1 life, and it's really a matter of gradually learning what happens when and making sure that you're positioned in the right place. Well worth checking out. And lastly, we have Paul, who says, okay, so the film was quite good for the most part, but this tie-in has captured none of its excitement or cuteness. Number 5 moves too slowly for my liking and takes far too long to react to joystick movement. First stage contains some nice scenery, but the general presentation is very hard on the eyes. The second stage is very repetitive and is no fun at all. Short Circuit is very boring and hasn't used the good points to bring it to life. That's a heck of a contradiction, that last opinion, isn't it? Because everybody else has been fairly positive about it. This guy's absolutely ripped it. There you go. Probably why I only got 71% then, because 2 liked it and 1 didn't. But I thought it was an okay game when I played it. I must admit, it's been a long time, so it may have aged poorly. Who knows? Obviously, they're not judging it on how it aged because they reviewed it when it came out. But if you have any love for the movie, I'm sure you will get something out of this game. I enjoyed it, and I wanted to put something a little bit different on as well. It's a game that I didn't play that much before, so I'm quite looking forward to giving it a go now. As ever, let me know in the comments if you've played it, if you finished it. That would be great to know if people out there have, and what you think of each stage would be pretty cool too. I'm looking forward to giving this a go when I finally get around to putting it on. Obviously, I'm currently getting around to putting it on, but it's just taking a while. Number 3 on the list is The Goonies, absolute classic, released in 1986 from US Gold for the price of £7.95. Also available on Amstrad CPC, Atari 8-bit, Commodore 64, Commodore Plus 4, which was an unofficial game apparently, and MS SX. Now, the only Goonies game I've ever played was on the NES, I believe, which I did also on this channel. So again, I'll try and leave a link for that somewhere. That was just a one-off random game I played, but they don't even list it as available for the NES on here. So I'm guessing it was a different game to this one. It was still the Goonies, obviously, but I'm assuming it's not the same game. But I can honestly say I haven't played this one. As much as I was an absolutely huge fan of the Goonies, and the Goonies is probably one of my, if I had to list my top 10 movies, I'd say this would probably appear in there. I was going to say top 5, but that might be ambitious. But it's definitely going to be in the top 10 without fail. And definitely, if we're making a list of my favourite 80s movies, it's right near the top. Absolutely love the Goonies. Watch it. Probably, I would have said once a year, but I don't think I've watched it for a while. There's a reason now. I mean, me and my ex-wife used to watch it a lot, and it's been hard to do anything that me and her used to do together since we split, because obviously it makes me a bit sad. So, I'm getting there though, and I'll never give up on the Goonies as a movie, because it's just been my thing for years, and it was for years before I met her, so it's not like, we're completely tied to it. But things like that take a little bit of time to get over, don't they? Anyway, but we're not going to dwell on that. We're going to be positive here and just talk about the greatness that is the Goonies. I mean, it is a fantastic movie. I'm not so sure the game's going to be as good as the movie, to be honest with you. We'll come to that in a second. I've got a very short review to read here as well, so we're not going to be dillying around with it for too much. Again, I went for a colourful review rather than something that was a bit drab. There is one black and white review on here, but we'll deal with that. That's the next one actually. But yeah, I went for this one because it was colourful, but it is fairly short. But yes, the Goonies, what can we say? I mean, just an absolutely fantastic film. In fact, I think it's the second film in a row it's set in Oregon, so that's a bit weird, to be honest with you. Again, that's another thing that my ex loved. She was absolutely obsessed with Oregon for some bizarre reason, but lovely place, looks awesome, but I've never been there personally, and neither has she. But this movie was, yeah, definitely filmed in Oregon, and beautiful, absolutely beautiful locations for this movie. I'm sure most of you have probably seen it out there, to be honest, as well. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to crack on with the review now. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about the movie afterwards. And so here it is, your Sinclair review. That's all we've got. This little bit in the bottom corner, so not much to read here. I don't even know how to start reading the first bit. Yaru Yeehaw. At last it's here, the wondrous one. After a year's wait, anticipation only adds to the enjoyment. US Gold has finally released Goonies, just as the video of the movie peaks in the charts. I keep calling it Goonies. It's The Goonies, please. The Goonies. US Gold's pedigree is steeped in blood, marmalising Moscow, busting dams and blowing up beachheads, so it's refreshing to report that Goonies, true to Spielberg's innocence of the film, is based on cooperation and helping your buddies in peril. Go it alone Ramboism won't help you here. It's a complex platform game requiring enough forethought to counter strategy, but though the problems are mind-boggling, the emphasis is always on fun rather than frustration. Your goal is to treasure on board One-Eyed Willie's pirate ship. Only by working with Mikey, Brand, Mouth and Co can the wicked Fratellis be avoided and your home sweet home saved. You can play 2-up, but it's fascinating on your lonesome, providing you remember to hit fire to change characters. Movement's fairly conventional and you won't find much originality in various ropes, tunnels, ladders and holes you have to negotiate to get around the screens. However, you're not allowed to move from a screen without both your Goonies, and though it might be relatively simple to get one through, 2 will sometimes seem downright impossible. Suffice to say, you'll have to work like those great partnerships of yore, Sharp and Lineker, Brahms and Liszt, Robertson and his golly. Okay, there's some 80s partnerships for you. Well, actually, Brahms and Liszt probably not so much, if you want to get anywhere. And if that isn't enough, in between you'll be solving puzzles and negotiating action sequences and diversions that have been created in apparently unconnected parts of the screen. Not only will this project you into your next pit of horrors, but you'll gain points. All this with just 5 lives to play with. However, successfully negotiate the cannonball chamber and you'll win 3 extra Goonies and 5,000 points for every Goonie you've still got left. After such a wait, you might well have expected something with a little more razzmatazz. Some of the graphics slip towards Stickman standard, but otherwise you can't go far wrong with this. Go on out and get them Goonies. Graphics 7, playability 7, value for money 8, addictiveness 9, and overall 8. So yeah, it's not a game that's going to blow anybody away, I wouldn't have thought, to be honest with you. Like I said, never played it, well, obviously until the video, but never played it, to completion or anything like that. Never played it back in the day, so looking forward to delving a little bit more into it. I think the best thing about having games on the system that are linked to movies that you love is obviously it compels you to want to play them more. You know the characters already. You don't have to get to know the characters because you know them from the movie. So I think there's always a little bit more for you there, isn't there, to help you stick at a game. Even if maybe it is a bit more frustrating and a bit more rubbish, you're always prepared to cut it a little bit more slack if you like the characters, you know, from the movie. So I think that'll happen when I play this game a little bit more, but for now I'm just looking forward to having a go at it. Yeah, if you've never played it before, I would say add it too. And if you have and you enjoy it, then I'm sure you're going to add it anyway. Let me know in the comments if you played it as ever and what your memories are of this one and the movie itself, because I absolutely adore the movie. It's definitely one of my favourites of all time. And so to game number 4, which is Rambo First Blood Part 2, released in 1985 by those movie tie-in experts Ocean for the price of £7.95. Also available on Amstrad CPC and Commodore 64. I think the Rambo movies for me are a bit of a guilty pleasure. I think the first Rambo movie, First Blood, was absolutely brilliant. It was a classic, I thought. But the rest of them, they kind of descended into a bit of like, almost like not a parody, I wouldn't say. I mean, Rambo, you got known as like, if you were a one-person army basically going up against the world, it would be like, you know, you'd be saying, what am I, Rambo or something, you know? It became kind of that sort of thing, didn't it? A legend in the sense that, you know, there was this guy who could just literally take on whole armies by himself. And so because of that, probably got a little bit underappreciated. I like all the Rambo movies. I've got more on Blu-ray, so apart from the last one, which was extremely gory but fun, but man alive, the new one was just absolutely insane. But I still enjoyed it, but it was just a little bit different to the rest of them. First Blood, the original Rambo movie, was really good story as well. And I wouldn't say the rest of them necessarily are the best stories, but they are a good fun watch without a doubt. I'm a massive action movie fan, especially 80s action movies. You can't really beat them, so you can't go wrong with this one. Probably right up there as one of the better ones out of the sequels. Like I said, I kind of consider First Blood as a movie by itself, really, compared to the others, because that was definitely very different to the rest of the Rambo movies. Anyway, I sound like a movie critic, don't I? But I'm really not. That's just my opinion. I played a lot of this game back then. I'd say it's a game that's very similar to like Commando, that sort of style. You know, you're running up screen, enemies against you, soldiers and everything. It does say here it's 2-player. I've never actually played it 2-player before. This is another game that is also on my channel in a previous video. I keep saying that with a lot of these, actually. I totally forgot that so many of these, it's only when I'm recording the audio that I actually remembered that these videos were on my channel. But yeah, I have got a nostalgia half-hour video of Rambo as well. Again, I'll try and remember to link it somewhere if I can. If not, you can find it. But yeah, so that's the third out of 5 that are on here, because the last game I haven't played before at all. So I seem to remember enjoying playing this back in the day, and I enjoyed playing it for the channel as well when I did, even though I was absolutely rubbish at it. Anyway, the genre of this game is arcade game, shoot 'em up, which I guess you'd expect for a Rambo game. So let's have a look at the review. We've got the crash review here. It's a long one. Oh god, look at it. So many words. I better take a deep breath before I start reading this. Unfortunately, it's in black and white. This was the better out of all the reviews anyway. So here we go. With the wide publicity given to Rambo, few people can have failed to hear of the all-fighting, invincible character brought to the screen by Sylvester Stallone. Ocean, catching on the Rambo bandwagon, have now released their binary interpretation of Stallone's blockbuster. The plot of the game follows that of the film quite closely. John Rambo is the veteran of Vietnamese War, a jungle fighter drafted back into the service to perform a reconnaissance mission to a prisoner of war camp. His instructions are to gain entry, take some photos and get out without either engaging the enemy or being noticed. If Rambo is spotted, it would jeopardize the prisoner's chances of rescue and could lead to their deaths. In the film, our hero begins his adventure by skulking into camp and manages to stick to his orders until he spots his old comrade, Banks, tied to a bamboo cross. Unable to leave his old pal dying in the sun, Rambo disobeys his orders and rescues his friend. The enemy, of course, spot this, and much blood splashing, carnage and mayhem is the result. Swiftly, Rambo returns to the helicopter that airdropped him and makes the pilot fly back to the camp for a quick and successful attempt at rescuing the prisoners. Then, pausing briefly to tackle an enemy gunship that tries to blast him out of the sky, Rambo and the rescued prisoners fly to Thailand. Well, that's the theory, and if you complete the game, that's what should happen. Rambo is a Platinum Productions game and is front-ended with a familiar option screen. Keys can be defined, although S starts the game, and skill levels can be set. The playing area occupies the left 2/3 of the screen, with the right-hand portion occupied by a combined inventory and status area. The jungle scenery scrolls around our hero in the action screen. The viewpoint from which the game is played is above and behind the hero, creating a pseudo 3D effect. Rambo can move around in 8 normal joystick directions, but may come to a halt when he reaches the end of the jungle. Rambo is not the only person in the jungle. It's full of enemy soldiers sneaking about. This is a combat game, so Rambo's inventory keeps track of his kills as well as displaying the weapons he collects. Starting off with knives and grenades, grenades, Rambo can obviously collect other weapons on the way. Apart from the knives and grenades, you may find other weapons lying about on the jungle floor, including a bow and explosive arrows, a machine gun and a rocket launcher. All the weapons have a seemingly endless supply of ammo, but only one weapon may be used at a time. Grenades are quite deadly, but the noise does tend to attract baddies to your location, whereas the knives are silent. If you throw a knife in the direction that Rambo is facing, any bad guy it travels over is killed and your score increases by 10 points. A baddie should shoot or stroll through you don't survive the encounter. All the same, the man is tough, you get 4 lives. Rambo starts his mission outside the enemy camp and must get inside via a small entrance on the right hand fence. Rescue Banks by running over to him and then run to the helicopter, which is due north. The helicopter then needs to be flown to the large H landing pad in the jungle from where hostages can be liberated using a rocket launcher. On the trip home, with the helicopter filled with the good guys, a gunship attacks. The view is similar to the jungle and camp scenes, but the helicopter replaces Rambo in the playing area. We'll skip down to comments and then we'll go back to the criticisms. So we've got keyboard play very responsive, use of colour, status screen pretty, playing area rather drab. Graphics, good scrolling and detail. Sound, very good tune, reasonable effects. Skill levels 3, screens 3. General rating, doesn't quite match the hype perhaps, but offers some good arcade playing. And it got use of computer 82%, graphics 81%, playability 80%, getting started 82%, predictive quality 78%, value for money 79%, overall 79%. And so onto the criticisms. After Commando comes Rambo, which is similar in many ways, as I got into the swing of things, shooting and blowing things up while dodging bushes, etc. I found it was a reasonable game. The graphics on the loading screen and in the game itself are really good and detailed, but a bit dull when it comes to the colour selection. When you die in the game, you get a realistic rendition of the US national anthem. Not bad overall. Next criticism says, and so in a blaze of exploding grenades and bazookas, John Rambo hits the specky. I hope it didn't hurt. In the official licensed game of the film from Ocean. I haven't managed to see Rambo the movie yet, but from the comments handed down in school, the game doesn't seem to match it. In look, it's very similar to Commando, but not as playable. Some neat tunes express themselves well, and there's a small high score table. Overall, this is quite a good game, and I'd recommend to anyone who likes trying to totally obliterate any enemy when the odds are a mega million to 1. Well, 1,000 anyway. Maybe 10. Last comment's the longest. Says not as good as Commando, but very good film tie-in for the price. It has something to do with the film, which makes a change. The screen area is a bit too small for a good shoot 'em up, which is what Rambo really is, and tends to scroll from side to side constantly, which gets very annoying. Rambo runs around in a very Commando-like style, with trees, bushes all drawn in detail. I found I could blow up some of them with the exploding arrows and hand grenades. It's odd the way our hero is always carrying a machine gun, even when he hasn't picked it up, and it would have been a good touch if Rambo actually carried weapons on the screen when he picks them up. There are some good touches, like the way you use a knife to free your fellow soldiers and use of a helicopter to rescue others. I wouldn't advise you buy Rambo as well as Commando, but instead of it, it adds an extra dimension to the arcade game while retaining a number of similarities. So there you go, they've drawn a lot of comparisons to Commando, which I think everybody probably who's played both would do too. I remember playing both back in the day and thinking I preferred Commando to Rambo, but I liked Rambo simply because I was a fan of like Stallone's movies and stuff, and when First Blood came out I was only a very young child, so I didn't actually see it when it came out, but I'm pretty sure I still watched it before I watched number 2. But I just was more of a fan of the Commando to Rambo, but I still always enjoyed playing the game. It's definitely a game I remember playing very on in my specky life as well. I remember playing this at my mate's house before I actually got my ZX Spectrum, so I was a bit of a fan of it before I actually got my own copy. But yeah, I think I had Commando on the Commodore 64. That's the one I preferred playing out of the two, but it's not really my style of game if I'm totally honest, but back then it was okay to play. I guess over the years you develop your identity, don't you, in terms of what games you like and what you don't. So, but for the style of game that it is, it's fun and I enjoy playing it still, and I had a good time recording the video, so goes to show it's a good game. And also overall I do like the movies as well very much. Like I said, I own them on Blu-ray, so definitely got a bit of affinity too. I like the action movie stars, you know, like I've got most of Schwarzenegger's movies. I think I've got all of Schwarzenegger's movies actually on Blu-ray. I've got all the Rambo movies. I've got like 2 packs of about 6 Blu-rays of Stallone movies. Like there was a Stallone collection and part 2 as well. So yeah, I do like action stars from the 80s and action movies from the 80s. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Rambo films, and yeah, if you like them, I say definitely add this game. And if you played it before, as ever, talk about it in the comments. And the final game on this list is The Never-Ending Story. Yet another Ocean Software game released in 1985. An adventure game, text illustrated, for 1 player. £9.95 was the price it released at, and it came out on Amstrad CPC, Commodore 64 and Atari 8-bits. It's one of the few games on this list that actually got an award. It got a Your Sinclair Mega Game. I think maybe one of the others did and I forgot to read it out. So it said it includes the following music: Giorgio Moroder, Keith Farsi and Lamar's Never Ending Story. There you go. Remarks says it came free with the original Spectrum 128K along with Daley Thompson's Super Test, which I didn't have an original Spectrum 128K, so I wouldn't have known that, but I'm sure there were a lot of you out there that did. It's a movie that, quite frankly, traumatized me when I was a kid, and I think if anybody's seen The Never Ending Story, they will know exactly what I'm talking about when we say that, and they'll know exactly which part we're talking about when we say that. I'm going to say I don't think it was the greatest movie from my childhood, but obviously it was brought out when I was a child, and that's the first time I ever saw it, so I did love it. I did love the movie growing up, but it's not one of those movies like, for me, I watched Ghostbusters when I was a kid, I watched The Goonies, and those movies made more of an impression on me than this one did, although I still loved it, you know, I still did. I think maybe it was the bit with Artax, and that's all I'm going to say. On that one was the reason why, because the bit when that happened in the movie, that traumatized me a lot, and it traumatized a lot of kids, I would imagine, back then. But we're going to say no more about that because I don't really fancy bursting into tears on the video in front of all you guys, so I'm going to keep that one to myself. And we're going to have a look at the review. This is a beautiful looking review, but it's going to be confusing to read. But I decided to go for this one, A, because it's got the award on this one. Also because it looks like something out of a book, which I thought was a bit different for a review on here. So it also reads like one too, so you're going to have to bear with me here. I'm not going to read the first bit. I'm just going to go straight for the review itself, because all that stuff is... Actually, no, we'll read it. What the hell it says? "'Tis a dark and stormy night, and all around is gloomy as you curl up and read your copy of Your Sinclair. Strange things begin to happen when suddenly you're plunged to a world where read on and leave the real world behind." Okay, so we're going to concentrate on the white covered text here. We might go back and read some of the green stuff because it's just about the characters though anyway. But Never Ending Story is never-ending success that grew from a best-selling book into a blockbuster film and finally into Ocean's latest adventure. And what a mega game it is too. It loads in 4 separate parts, has windowing graphics and over 100 locations, some very strange characters. Our epic hero spends his time hidden away in the attic. Well, wouldn't you if your parents christened you Bastian Balthazar Bucks? Yeah, that is a heck of a name, isn't it? But Bastian doesn't just run away and hide up there. He skips off into another universe where he finds Fantasia, a world facing extinction. Predictably, the job of sorting out the mess falls to him. Thing is, bits of Fantasia keep disappearing, swallowed by the all-consuming nothing. At the start, a lad from the plains, Atreyu, is chosen by his people to dash off and face all manner of danger and devilry in the search for someone who could save the world. That someone, of course, is Bastian, sitting in his attic reading all about Fantasia and its inhabitants. How Atreyu manages to track him down is up to you. The display is one of the game's main attractions. On loading, a horizontal format picture of a vast plain beneath an evening sky appears across the top of the screen. Other images, such as little illustrations of what you're carrying and a cameo picture of your location, flash on and off against this backdrop. Every so often you're treated to a snapshot of Bastian in his attic reading his Fantasia book. And if you're wondering what Fantasians look like, well, take a look at their pickies on the screen. There are plenty of them, some pretty weird. You'll encounter Rockbiter, Teeny Weeny and the Night Hob at the start, but they'll promptly disappear for the duration of the first episode. There's also gnomes, giant tortoises and sphinxes, not to mention your faithful steeds, Artax and Falcor the Luck Dragon. All characters have significant game role, though you won't get much chance to talk to them. Mind you, the lack of an examine option is far more serious loss. Even if everything you carry is illustrated, attribute problems and limited graphics resolutions make some things unrecognisable. It certainly help if you could call up descriptions of the more obscure objects. This drawback apart, the game's well designed and gets the best from the words it does understand. Responses are helpful, specifying any unacceptable words rather than just saying you can't do that. You won't need to enter anything complex to solve the puzzles either, but that doesn't mean they're easy. You'll find yourself having to tie objects and problems together that occur at quite distant locations. This exercising the fingers as well as the brain cells. Never Ending Story's opening puzzles me. It's just so easy. You're unlikely to die unless you're dogged with real bad luck. Don't be put off though, as time goes by you'll find yourself more and more up against it. Spook City, for example, has death waiting around every corner, so make sure you save the game at every opportunity, unless you want to keep going back to square one. This is definitely a hot shot Christmas bonus if you're tired of sitting in the attic all day. And we've got pictures of a lot of the characters that were mentioned. I'm not going to read all this stuff here. Maybe you can zoom in and read if you want to. We're concentrating on just the game review really. It's got like some nice pictures here on the screen, like of the main screen. Obviously it tells you what each area is. We've got pictures of the inventory in the top right corner of the second picture. A lot of it's self-explanatory. Like I said, again, zoom in and read that if you want to. We're going to just concentrate on the scores now. Atmosphere 9, ingenuity 7, size factor 9, value for money 9, and overall 9. That's an interesting set of marks there, isn't it? Ingenuity and size factor. Not seen those before. But yes, never-ending story. A adventure game that's faithful to the movie. And I think for a lot of ocean movie tie-in games, they were all like pretty much like either a platform game or they were like a mindless shooter or something. So this is something a little bit different for one of Ocean's movie tie-ins. And I think that's the way they had to deal with this one. Let's face it, I don't think this would have worked as any other kind of game. I mean, could you imagine a never-ending story as a platform game, for example? So it lends itself well to this genre, and I think they do a good job for what I've played so far. Didn't play it back in the day that much that I can remember. May have booted it up once or twice. I don't remember doing it though, so I really think I was going into this blind. It's not a game I've got memories of, let's put it that way. I enjoyed playing it for the video. I'm looking forward to playing a little bit more too and getting massively into it. And yeah, again, let me know in the comments if you had this when you were younger. Maybe you got a 128K with this game for free. When I got my Spectrum, I got games with it, but I don't think they were like free included games like you get with most computers nowadays. And obviously with certain models of the Spectrum back then, they were just games that my mum got me. So, you know, it's like separate things, you know. Always love getting a freebie game with computers though. I always think it's so much fun. Like when I got my Amiga and got the Batman pack, that was just like amazing to get those games. But yeah, I can imagine this would have been a nice free game to get with a computer, and I'm looking forward to playing some more of it. So let me know as ever if you've played this game and if you've got to the end of it. So there we have it. That was 5 random movie tie-in games to add to the Spectrum. The list was License to Kill, Short Circuit, The Goonies, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, and The Never-Ending Story. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, hope you like the games. Leave some comments. Let me know. Obviously, I know there are lots of games I didn't put on here. I had a whole list that I had to pick from. I just picked games that I like the movies of, so that's why I picked them. But you've probably got your own opinions. Everybody has, you know, so sound off in the comments at which games you would have chosen for this list. And bear in mind, obviously, some of the more classic games I've already put on other lists and didn't want to include them necessarily. But I know I've probably got enough movie tie-in games out there for another 10 lists easily, so just remember that when you're like having a go at me for not putting this game on and that game. Obviously, I made up 5 here, so, you know, there's a lot out there, I get it, and that's just the way it is. Hope you guys are all enjoying your Spectrums. I know there's been a few teething problems. Hopefully we've covered a few of those issues on the channel so far. There's a few people that have written to me in comments with problems that I haven't come across yet, so I apologize that I haven't been able to help with everything, but also obviously, you know, I am not a designer of this machine. I am just literally somebody who enjoys it like yourself, like a fan. So if I don't come across the problem, chances are I'm probably not going to know how to fix it, but hopefully you're getting help from other people within the comments if you are running into some problems like that. But I think I managed to help a few people with a few things anyway, so that's always something, isn't it? And I hope you're enjoying them. Personally speaking, I haven't played mine much yet, and there's a reason for that. I'm still trying to organise the damn games. It's like I told you when in the very first video, when I found out that we couldn't have zipped games on the stick. Most of mine are, so trying to go through them all and pick out the ones I want and put them into folders and all the rest of it, and my OCD, once I start doing something like that, I want it perfect. I want them all perfectly organized so that, you know, I don't have to go searching too far if I want to find the right game. You know, I want them where I know where they are, sort of thing. I keep doing it and like reading like some of these titles and thinking, I'm never going to play this game, I'm never going to play that game, but I'm putting them all on, as many as I can find anyway. And what I'll probably do is I'll make a backup of this, because it's not going to be a large file, let's face it, just in case, because I do not want my stick to get corrupted or something, then I have to do all this again. Could you imagine? When it's already taken me best part of 2 weeks. I'm probably like 75% through, so I've still got a lot of work to do, but I was running out of videos, and so I thought I'd better take a break and do a couple of videos, which is why I'm here, obviously, because videos are the bread and butter for the channel, and I want to keep you guys entertained while still trying to sort my own shit out. So that's basically the long and short of it there. So I do apologise for the lack of videos, but also, you know, I think you can probably understand it. If anyone who's got the same problem as I have, you probably know it's taking quite a while to get that shit sorted. So, but we're getting there. Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. Mind how you go, take care, and hope you're enjoying yourself with your Spectrums. And obviously, as ever, comments, you can put any stories you've got, any problems obviously as well, just whack them down below, and hopefully someone can help you. Thanks everybody, take care, speak to you soon, bye for now.